What series of movies everyone is sure to remember if the need arises? Suppose someone asks you to name your favorite and dearest movie. You will not be able to name them all. You may be laughed at. You will have to choose wisely. For example, if you want to be known as someone with exquisite taste, you can name the movie The Godfather. Yes, the third movie isn't the best, but usually everyone pretends it's better than it is. If you're among friends and there's no point in making a professor out of yourself, you can turn to Back to the Future, Lethal Weapon, Mission Impossible, or even Harry Potter. Add about the fact that this offshoot about the mysterious Dumbledore has cursed capitalism and doesn't count. At your own risk, you can call Jurassic Park or Indiana Jones, Star Trek or James Bond. But you can't name Star Wars or Marvel or the Terminators. There would have to be too many amendments, refinements, and tweaks. Everything becomes more complicated. The chance of being known as a simpleton among moviegoers increases dramatically, and by no means call Twilight, Divergent, Resident Evil, or Fast and Furious. That's where it ends, even if you're a very pretty lady. They won't say it to your face, but the stain will remain for life. Unless you are 15 years old, then it's okay, they will forget. The movie we will be remembering today can be put in that category when there is no desire to make a professor out of yourself, and everyone will understand you and not judge you. Today we have Die Hard, which could have been the movie of many actors in Hollywood, but became the movie of Bruce Willis. The first Die Hard, of those very movies around which there are many myths and legends, and all of them contradict each other, and not because they are rumors or someone's sick fantasy. More precisely, it may be a fantasy, but fantasized by the people who worked on the movie and who are professional. We can only guess. It was originally a story about a militant retiree visiting his daughter in an oil company skyscraper and the bad people who need to be destroyed. Producer Lawrence Gordon bought the screen rights to the book just by looking at its cover. When his assistant suggested that Gordon read the book, Gordon informed him that it was not necessary. A movie based on this cover would have been a hit, and here's this cover, but it's from '79. Right now, we all immediately see the perfect scenario for Liam Neeson. But back then, Liam Neeson wasn't a fighting old man. Stewart knew this and decided to change the affair. He himself says he had a fight with his wife and wanted to make up, so he replaced the 60-year-old protagonist with a guy his own age, about 35. He removed the bad daughter from the book and introduced the good wife, with whom the protagonist wanted to reconcile. His script was immediately approved. Stewart said it was just that all the available stars in the sky had aligned properly. Fox Studios needed a big movie in the summer of '88, and his script was chosen as the fastest option to get the movie out before then. Yes, that's exactly what happened. One of the most famous Christmas and New Year's Eve movies, set on Christmas Eve, was released in the summer. It was because of producer Lawrence Gordon. He said he wanted it to snow in Los Angeles. It's a very rare occurrence there. They got rid of that element in the end to keep the budget down. But Christmas remained in the script. Then began the epic with the refusals of the movie of the big Hollywood stars. A really huge number of actors went through the movie. But this happened in part because for several years it was a direct adaptation of the novel, still without a script. Forced to run on a skyscraper wanted even Clint Eastwood. He just fit the age of the hero of the novel. Eastwood in the early '80s was 53 to 54. Not everyone refused. Someone really wanted to star in Die Hard. But these people were called John Travolta, and they were refused at the studio. John in those years was considered a black mark for any movie, and no one wanted to bury Die Hard at once. Mel Gibson could have been in the movie. Everyone was in favor of it, but Gibson chose Lethal Weapon. Sylvester Stallone could have starred in the movie, but he asked for the entire estimated budget of Die Hard as a fee and had to send him away. But Kevin Costner didn't turn down Die Hard, simply because he wasn't offered the role, which is actually surprising. The last official rejection was Robert De Niro. He talked to the producers a little bit and touched on the script, but he favored the movie to make it to midnight because he wanted a more comedic movie. The script, which was rewritten by Steven D'Souza, was rewritten once again during the filming. More precisely, they shot what they wanted and sometimes looked at the script. D'Souza did not have time to give the final version before the start of filming, and the authors worked in the spirit of Gladiator, or that on Gladiator worked in the spirit of Die Hard. According to Bruce, he originally also refused Die Hard, not because he did not want to star there, he did not have time because of the series Moonlight Detective Agency. But here, too, there was a parade of planets. Sybil Shepherd got pregnant, and Bruce suddenly had a small window in which he could try to squeeze in some filming in Die Hard. Since Fox Studios was in a hurry and didn't have much choice, Bruce, who called the producer and said he was available, was immediately ripped off with his hands. Die Hard director John McTiernan also got into the movie after being turned down. He was the first to be offered the director's chair. But he didn't want to shoot a simple action movie either, so the producers turned it down. So they ran to other directors, including Richard Donner, who had just given away a Lethal Weapon. But he too turned them down. The studio rushed to McTiernan again, and he agreed to full creative control. Thanks to the director, the terrorists disappeared from the movie. They became ordinary criminals stealing money. Problems arose, and Alan Rickman. He wanted to see him in the role of supervillain director of the movie. Rickman was a star of television and theater, and immediately told the director that in a silly action movie will not be filmed. According to one version, he was thrown a bag of money. According to another, he got in the neck from his agent. Bruce had to combine half of the filming of Die Hard with work on the series. Shepherd gave birth and quickly returned to work, so the anticipated break was less than expected. And since the series contract was prioritized because of the earlier signing, Bruce had to give 4 days a week to it. And Mac Turton had to work 3 days almost without Bruce, who was only available at night, which made the other actors lucky. Their roles expanded. Bruce had to combine half of the filming of Die Hard with work on the series. Shepherd gave birth and quickly returned to work, so the anticipated break was less than expected. And since the series contract was prioritized because of the earlier signing, Bruce had to give 4 days a week to it. And Mac Turton had to work 3 days almost without Bruce, who was only available at night, which made the other actors lucky. Their roles expanded. He was constantly bad-mouthing and complaining right through the filming. Some of these forced improvisations were so much to McTiernan's liking that he left them in the movie, making John McClane the character that audiences loved so much. The movie's test screenings were excellent. Because the movie seemed to be a hit, the creators were even allowed to shoot some explosions, which were initially abandoned due to cost and concerns that the creators would damage the Fox Studios headquarters. In addition, employees constantly complained about loud noise and gunfire overhead, and John McTiernan was asked to turn the noise down. When test screenings were held, outraged managers, under whose windows police armored cars were exploding, were asked to keep their voices down. However, things were not so rosy with the movie trailers. Bruce Willis was a comedic actor, and his appearance in the trailer made people in theaters laugh, and not where they should. The disappearance of Willis's face on the first posters of the movie is related to this. The studio was afraid that Willis's past would give the tough nut a powerful blow. They brought him back in the second week of distribution when it became obvious that the audience liked Bruce very much. The start at the box office of the movie was relatively modest. It started from the third place and the result of $7 million for the weekend, with a budget of $30 million. On the same day with him started and before midnight with Robert De Niro, and he collected $6 million with a budget of $35 million. As a result, The Same Time Before Midnight has gained $38 million, and Die Hard was a success with viewers and was in the top 10 of the US box office 4 months and collected $83 million. In the worldwide box office at Bruce $141 million, Willis immediately became a big star. Bruce Willis always resents the precocity of the sequel. The actor doesn't like Die Hard 2. The basis of Die Hard 2 is also a book, Walter Wager's novel 58 Minutes. That's how much time the main character of the novel had to destroy the hooligans and save the airplane. Here already the main scriptwriter was Steven D'Souza. His career flew upwards so rapidly that in 1994 he had already decided to become a great director and destroyed the career of the main Belgian ballet master, after which he said goodbye to his career as a director, and a year later, the failure of Judge Dredd hamstrung his career as a screenwriter. He buried himself as a screenwriter definitively on the second Lara Croft in the early noughties. In the first Die Hard, Bruce Willis only made a couple of jokes in the script, but due to constant improvisations, it came out a little differently. In the second movie, the producers informed Wills that he could make jokes anywhere, as much as he wanted, and about anything. Those phrases of Bruce's about his whole life story being in the wrong place at the wrong time are his improvisation. In the script, he usually just snickered, and it was finalized that Wills would figure out what needed to be said here. The first Tight Tales director, John McTiernan, has turned down directing a sequel in favor of working on The Hunt for Red October. That's how the movie got director Rennie Harley, who also put some of his ideas into the movie, like Colonel Stewart with no underpants. Rennie told me that he wanted to do something that no one expected, so he hit the audience with the Colonel with no underpants. It was really something no one expected. But the biggest problem for the authors was the snow. The movie was shot in Denver, and it was usually there at this time of year. But the end of '89 and the beginning of '90 turned out to be surprisingly snowless. We had to use artificial, which cost the studio an extra $1 million. Die Hard 2 hit theaters again in July, this time in '90. Now, it was already a big expected blockbuster with a price of $60 million and started at the box office from the first place collecting $22 million. The stamina of the truth was much worse. 4 months at the box office he did not hang, but at home managed to collect a solid $118 million. Another $122 came from the rest of the world. The third film of the Die Hard franchise took quite a while to reach theaters. So many different scripts were written for it. One of them later turned into the movie Speed 2. But Die Hard 3 didn't stay away and also snatched the script of the fourth, Lethal Weapon. That's where the writers thought too long and the producers of Die Hard saw an opportunity. But they had to make some sacrifices for the sake of it. The studio tried to force screenwriter Jonathan Hensleigh to remove the episode with the famous inscription. Hensleigh wouldn't agree and threatened to leave with the script to another studio. In the end, Fox Studios had to agree, and the lettering will be added to it already at the post-production stage. In some versions of the movie, the lettering on the poster reads, "I hate everyone." And it was an alternate version because of the studio's fear that the original lettering might be forced to be removed from the film by some government organization. As we already know, that didn't happen, although the movie did get a bum rap for the original upon its release. The third movie in the series cost a whopping $90 million for '95. Such a solid budget for the third movie is due in part to the departure of producer Joel Silver. He worked on the first and second installments of the series, as well as The Last Boy Scout, where he had a falling out with Bruce Willis, even though they had been good friends before. On the third part, Joel had to pay a penalty of several million and get a kick in the ass. Bruce refused to work with the producer. John McTiernan is back in the director's chair. After the failure of Last Action Hero and The Cure, he needed a hit, and he didn't say no again. McTiernan was not averse to seeing Sean Connery as the main antagonist. The The director and Connery had previously worked together on The Hunt for Red October and Medicine Man. But Connery refused, as, according to him, did not want to play such a nasty villain. Then, already in the movie, stopped nasty Jeremy Irons. Got to the authors and for the weight of gold bars, which, in reality, should have crushed the trucks. John McTiernan, in all interviews, emphasized that the authors knew about this nuance, but they had to go for such an artistic convention. After the premiere of Die Hard 3, the movie's screenwriters, Jonathan Hensley, was detained by FBI agents. Hensley was asked where he got so much information on the Federal Gold Reserve. Hensley said he found all the information in a New York Times article. What happened to the intimate parts of the authors of the New York Times article, history does not tell. Die Hard 3 was the highest-grossing movie at the international box office, excluding the United States in '95. The movie grossed $266 million worldwide, but only 101 in the States. They put it down to all the scandals already announced and the terrorist attack in Oklahoma City. It happened just a month before the premiere of Die Hard 3, and the authors were asked to remove the explosion from the beginning of the movie, but the New Forest Macteers refused, citing the fact that this is a feature film and the episode is important to the plot. It was also written about it. Critics were outraged, and as a result, the collections sagged at home in relation to the sequel, but taking into account the worldwide distribution, the movie became the highest grossing in the series. However, the fourth part had to wait more than a decade. Bruce Willis was too superstar and refused to star in an ordinary action movie. And in 2003, everything changed. Bruce began to fail with his movies and had to agree to the fourth, Die Hard. Cost Die Hard 4 in $110 million, and at the box office collected $388. And although the studio's income from the movie was less than from the previous films, it is the highest-grossing movie of the franchise. Audience ratings of the fifth part of The Truth went to the bottom. They have the fifth movie only 5 points out of 10, critics and died. They have 15% positive reviews, with an average rating of 4 out of 10. But there could have been a sixth movie. Information about it has been popping up a lot. We'd probably get a sixth Die Hard these days, despite the scores of the fifth. Against the backdrop of the success of the same Bad Boys, few people would have cared and the studio would have taken a chance. But now Bruce Willis won't be able to star in the movie due to his diagnosis, and without him, restarting the series isn't the best idea, as it's too much attached to Bruce. But we probably won't rule out that scenario. It's possible to reboot the movie with a woman. It's very trendy right now. The critics will definitely like it, and that's the most important thing these days. Why the sixth part was not filmed earlier is a complicated question. Maybe it's all about assessments. Everything was too bad and there was a very high chance of failure. Or maybe big Hollywood studios knew about Bruce's well-being earlier, back in the second half of the 10th, and that's what it's all about. It's unlikely we'll ever know the truth. The series ended on a very sad note, which makes it hard to call it one of the best and relatively even franchises. The fifth movie hinders it a lot, but you can pretend it's not there. That's the way to do it too. And that was the Good Bad Movie Channel, and I'll see you later.